Hello everyone, welcome to another tutorial. Today we're going to be working on some floor grates. I know it's been a while since my last tutorial. I was working on some like cliffside rocks, um, but it had been my first time working on cliffs, on rocks like this, and it was stressing me out. I wanted to get some practice in there and obviously do some more different material exploration for the channel. I was losing sleep over it. I was dreaming about it. I was getting sweats. It was bad. Um, I'm still working on that. It is getting to a better spot. I'm just getting some feedback on it from some friends, but I needed a little confidence booster after it. So we have this one that we're going to be working on today. So yeah, sometimes when you try to work on some new materials, it can be a little scary, but eventually you'll overcome it. So just take a break and then come back later. All right. So for this one, I saw this concept piece a while back that I really liked. And it stuck with me and I remembered it and I found it again. These grates down here look little sci-fi grates. I thought they were pretty simple but also pretty cool looking. So I wanted to try my hand at these. I thought about doing the hoses as well, but I decided to just make those. If you look at my ArtStation post, I modeled these. So, but yeah, well, let's get started. And I'll put a link to this on the description and the person who did this. Okay, so let's get started. We're going to start with a shape. Oh, for the normal here, I'm using an intensity of 10. For the ambient occlusion, I'm using HBAO. I'm doing 0.05. And for the what's it called here, the height scale, we're going to do a 1.5. And I'm just going to use tessellation factor of 6 for now. All right. So we're going to start with a shape here, set to square, 0.04 on the X for the size. Then we are going to bevel it. Let's actually, distance of 0.002, negative 0.002. We're actually going to plug this in, just so that we can start seeing it. I'm going to change this to high res. And then just go top down. Okay, so right now we're going to be working on the sides of the sides here. Now I noticed these guys are actually different because they don't have like this gridding here. So this is just like a bigger like floor grate. But we're not going to worry about these guys. We're just going to focus on these. These are more interesting. Okay. So we're going to bevel and then we're going to branch off from the shape into a levels. And we're going to be doing this a lot where we bevel a shape and then we use a levels to kind of raise the bevel, as you'll see here, as we've done in previous tutorials. Change this to screen. Let's move that there. So if we look here, if we zoom in here, so if we turn this off, there is a bevel here, but right now the bevel is reaching the ground. So what we do here with this levels, we basically raise it up. So you can see here, the bevel starts here and it goes all the way down. I think there's another one here. But then here, when we raise it, it's still there, but it's just harder to see because I want the bevel to be like from up here to like over here. Now this one is meant to be very, very subtle, and you'll see why. You'll see why. Okay, so this is at the screen. Let's move on. We're gonna do a transform 2D, and we're just moving this guy over to the left side, and this is the offset, 0.4799. And this actually is not going over to the other side. Also, make sure your tiling mode is set to no tiling, because I moved it pixel perfect to the edge, and you can see the bevel here. So now if we look over here, you can see our bevel here. Maybe this is too steep. Maybe we should go back. We should just go back to 1 for now. Okay. So then after that, we're going to do a mirror grayscale, because we want this on the other side. So now we have them both on both sides. Then we're going to put a levels through that and set that to 0.75 to lower it, because we don't want it to be so high up. Actually, I think now we can go back to 1.5. Yeah, I'm worrying about the way it looks, but it doesn't look like in the finished product because we're not done. So let me just trust the process. So yeah, so here you can see that there's a little bevel, and the reason why I wanted that is because if this is going to be tiling, I don't want it to continue on perfectly. I want it to kind of like each panel is its own like at the end of the texture, I wanted to like move on to the next one, and I didn't want it to be like perfectly flat because then it wouldn't really make sense. Like these would be, placed and built in pieces. All right. So now that we have that, we're gonna need another shape here. You can see the settings there. Then we're gonna do a transform 2D. We're gonna offset it slightly. Very, very slight move to the left side. Then we're gonna mirror it. So here's where it started. We moved it off to the left a little bit, to the left of the center. So now when we mirror it, the center is still here. So then we have these that are perfectly balanced. And then we're going to move it again because we're trying to move it on top of this guy. Because if we look over here, you can see here that this is where that little bevel is that we worked on just now. And then we have these two guys that are on top. So that's these two guys here. So after the mirror grayscale, we're going to do another transform 2D, and we're just going to move it over 0.48. Now, we're going to do the same thing that we did back here with the bevel and the levels thing and the screen. So I'm just going to grab these three here and paste them. And the reason why I did it this way is because I wanted them all to have a slight bevel, and I wanted them all to be like the same bevel distance. Okay, so this one is set to the same thing, negative 0.002, and then this guy set to 0.95, and then screen set to opacity 1. So now, once we have the left side, and it's beveled, now we can do another mirror grayscale. And then we're going to do another levels here. I always have a levels at the end because I want to be able to have control over its height. So if I want to increase it and lower it, that would be this slider here. And this one is set to 0.85. Now it's time to merge these two together. So obviously this is going to go in the middle. This one's going to go on top. We're going to move our connection over to the front. So now here you can see that we have our two rails here, and they are beveled. I don't want any hard edges. Just like if you were to be modeling this, you wouldn't want hard edges unless it was like far away and stuff. But for more detailed, obviously we want to add a little bevel. And this is set to max lighten. Then we're going to do a transform 2D. Try to remember why I have this here. Oh, okay, so what this transform 2D does is it stretches, or it squishes it. So this is the value here. So we went from this and we squished it down. Okay, then we're just gonna redo this step that we've been doing. I'm just gonna copy paste all of this stuff here just to, I don't want these videos take too long, that we can spend more time explaining rather than just reading out values. So we have a shape here, a lot of shapes. So now we're working on the middle, this middle piece here. So start with a basic shape. There's the settings for it. Same thing, we bevel it, negative 0.002. The bevels, same level out high, 0.95. Screen it, we blend it. And then here we have another level set to 0.75. And then we have our blend. This one's set to add. So now there's our middle railing. Let's give ourselves more room. Okay. Now we're going to start here with two shapes. There's the top one. And there's the bottom one. Now those two are going to be blended together. And we're going to subtract because I'm trying to create, we started with this and I just wanted to create a like a gap between them. Because if we look over here, we're working on this guy now and there seems to be a gap there. Okay. Same thing. You can just copy, I guess I can just do it here. We can grab this, copy paste it over here. Just plug this in here, this down there. Yeah, that should be good. So now this is beveled, you can see it here. Then we're going to need another shape. Then we're going to level it. And then we're going to max lighten this together to bring this bar back. Then we're going to 2D transfer it to move it into place. This one we do want carrying over, so I set it to 0.5 offset, which brings it to the edge. So half of it is at the top and the other half is at the bottom. So we don't need to do any like precise measuring or mirroring. And then we're going to just need our levels after it so we can place it in the right spot. So here we add it together. And now we have our top bar. Now we just need our middle guy here. So we're going to work on this one. Another simple shape. Then we're going to scan it by 1 and 1 because I want to make sure that I don't have any gradients on the edges. I don't think I need this one. I think when I was working on it before I did need it because I think I was stretching it, but this one shouldn't have any gradient on the edges. It should be perfectly black and white. Let me check over here. Yeah, so we don't need this guy. We can get rid of him. Now I'm just going to copy paste. Same thing with the bevel, same settings. Let's just plug it in. Then this one set to 0.6. Plug that in there. Max lighten. And now we have here our other bar And then if you want to raise and lower, like I said, just play around with this guy from the levels. Okay. Now we're gonna move on to the more interesting parts, which will be the tiles, the graded floor that goes in between. So we're gonna start with a shape. And it's not a perfect square, and you'll see why in a bit. So these are the settings for this. Then we're going to do a transform 2D. And what I did here is I just moved it into the top left corner. And then once it's there, that's going to give us this guy here. So then after we move it into place, I want to mirror it. So now it's at the bottom. And then we mirror it again. And that'll be on the right. And just pay attention to my settings here. I changed the axis there. Then from here, I invert it. And then we do a levels set to this. You can probably just do 0.33 round up. I'm sorry, this isn't the tiles. This is the I'll show you what this is. And this one's set to screen. This is the inner. If we look over here, you can see that there's a gap between like the metal, like framing, and the grate itself. So I'm assuming that these grates are sitting on something, right? Like they wouldn't just hover, or like they're bolted to something, or something's holding them in place. So that's what this is supposed to be. This guy here. So the the grates are going to be sitting on this. So we need something in between the gaps. So obviously that's what this is. Now we're going to work on the actual grates. So we're going to start with a shape. Similar sizing to the frames we just did, but same process. We're going to move it into the top left corner. And then we're going to mirror it. Again, pay attention to the axes. Okay, now we're going to move down here because this is basically the floors. Now we need to we need to put the holes, punch the holes through it. So to make the shape for the grates, I started with another shape, surprise. You can see here the settings, and then we're going to start with another shape, but this one's actually going to be different for once. This is going to be a disc, because this is going to be the bottom, and the rounded top and bottom of the grates. We're going to need two transform 2Ds here. And what I do here is I move one up, and then the other one I move down. Oops, no, we don't need to go there, it's right here. So we move this one up 0.225 and this one down -225, just so that they're even. Then we add these together. Then we add these together. And now we have this little like pill or capsule shape. Then we're going to do a tile sampler. I'm actually going to move it over one. Now I'm going to create a shape. Set this shape to 0.9. I think that's all we need to do for this scale because we're going to use this as a mask. And you'll see why in a second. Alright, so we're going to plug in our capsule, our shape, into the pattern input here. Change our pattern to pattern input. So now we have our capsules here. Then we're going we're going to count how many there are. So there are 3, 6, 7, and then 7, on both sides. So we're going to change this to 7 by 7. Now, you can see that they're offset every other. So let's go down to our position. Let's change our offset. Now these are offsetting in the wrong direction. So you can go to offset type here and change this to vertical. Okay, so now that we have our offset, since these are, machine made, we don't really have to worry about, rotations or anything like that. Now I did realize actually that I have 7 for these guys, but I have 6 for these guys. What I want to do here is get rid of these guys here. So that's why we have this mask here, and we're going to plug it into our mask map input. And then for it to take effect, we have to go down to the bottom and under mask map threshold, you only need to move it up a little bit because it's white or black. So just 0.01 will do the trick, but we're just going to go all the way. But did that work? Yeah, 0.01 works, but we're just going to go all the way. So basically this is saying get rid of anything in the black. So it gets rid of these guys. And if I were to increase or lower this, then you can isolate. Oh, whoops, this should be 0.9. Okay, so now that we have this, we're going to need a 2D transform. And I'm just going to scale them down. So you can see here how much we scaled down. Just make sure these two are the same here, x1 and y2. Then this is our new pattern. And I'm going to drive this through a tile generator, which is a cheaper version of the tile sampler. Less options, but that's okay because we don't really need all of the things this thing can do. So we do a tile generator, move it to the top. Change this to image input. And then we need a 2x2. Now that we have our 2x2, I don't think there's anything else we need to do. We're going to do another transform 2D. And here we pull it, or I just move it. Okay, I see what I did. So yeah, so I move it. I don't stretch it or anything. You can see these are all the same. We do move it by 0.0125 negative. So we moved everything to the right. And you're probably thinking, well, that's going to throw everything, it's going to throw like the symmetry off, but we're actually going to do a mirror grayscale. So now we're back to being perfectly symmetrical. So you can see here it's when it's like ruined. So this is after the generator. Then we move it. So now this gap on the left is going to be bigger than the gap on the right, which we don't want. But we're going to mirror it. And we're mirroring on the X. So it basically, deletes this and mirrors the left side. So it's okay that this right side's like, goofy. Now here we're going to need to subtract. And now we're going to drag from this guy from earlier. Because this guy's our base, and then we're poking the holes through. Now after this, same process. This is where we did the bevels, and then this one's set to negative 0.005, and then this level is set to 0.9. and then screen. Then we're going to give it a slight blur so that the bevel is a little smoother. It's very, very subtle. So let's grab all of this and move it back a bit. Okay. So now we are going to, I didn't realize I muted my mic, but um, I think I showed everything. But what I was saying is like, now that we have our graded floor in place, you can see here that we have like a nice bevel on everything. Now here it's going to be hard to tell because our tessellation factor is not set to very high. It's set to 6. So if we change this up to like 12, we get more resolution. So now we have everything's nicely beveled, which makes will make the light hitting those angles more noticeable. Um, and something I showed you guys in a previous tutorial, if you hit this little information button here, you're able to get information on whatever pixel you're pointing at with your cursor. So you can see here that I made sure that the height of the graded floor, if you look under V, is 229, and then the top of this is also 229 because I wanted these things to be flush because I was paying attention to people walking on this don't trip. But obviously this one right here is going to be a little bit higher. That's just because of the way it looks, at least from this angle for here. Looks like this stuff here is a little bit higher than this, but everything else should kind of be flush with each other. Otherwise you'd have people tripping all over the place. Alright, so we don't need that. Now I think that's it for height. So that was nice and simple. Actually, we're going to set one more thing up because we're going to need this for later. So let's do it now. We're going to need a connector right here. And then from here, we're going to do an invert grayscale. And then we're going to need an add. And what we're going to add into it is going to be this guy. So we're going to pull out and put this over here with a little connector. And then this is going to go in here. I'm going to actually just flip these just to kind of keep in line with what we normally do. And we're going to be using this mask later. So we're just going to get that set up now. I'm just checking here. And yep, that's pretty much it for height. Next we'll be doing the base color and then roughness. I'm going to be doing roughness and metallic in the same one just to keep, so I won't have so many videos. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this one and learned something new. And I'll see you guys on the next tutorial.